ロボ忍者デザイン
Hey guys, it's your action figure hero Nate with Robo Ninja Design, and behind me is my setup at my work desk for photography, for painting, for reviews, for whatever I need. And I recently watched a video from Dan Larson at Toy Galaxy about his photo booth setup, Dan in the photo booth, at his house. I'm sure he's got one in his studio and one at his house. And the one at his house it's just very simple. It's a table that he's got set up with white paper that goes kind of curves up, kind of almost like the ceiling on an IMAX type thing where it kind of all blends together. And that's how he gets that great wall disappearing into the floor type thing going on. The way that he presented it looked like he was dealing with each sheet of paper. And I thought it would be cool to have a roll dispensary from the ceiling that would come down. I could pull the sheet down, tape it off, and then use it, and then either roll it back up when I was done, or I could just cut it off and roll some more out. So I've done a drawing of what that could look like. Now I do need to get some measurements here from the ceiling down and make sure that I'm far enough away from the wall, because this just says 30-ish inches, but I need to get an exact measurement of where this is going to be and make sure I leave enough, material on the bottom here. Probably leave 2 inches of material below to just make sure that this part stays nice and strong. Okay, so I've done all my measuring, and this 30-ish inches came out to be 30 and an eighth. So I could probably actually go with 30 inches. So my guesstimate was pretty much right on. So now we're gonna rip down some wood and drill some holes. So this is pretty standard fare. I'm just measuring out the pre-described length on the 2x4s. The length that I'm using doesn't really matter, because if you're tailoring this to your setup, it's going to be different, so you have to do your own measurements. Then I'm going to drill holes in both 2x4s to receive the dowel, and I'm also cutting some plywood that I had laying around that's going to act as covers on each end of the 2x4s to ensure that the dowel doesn't slip out. The monetary cost of those materials with the screws is relatively low. You've got $3.50 for the 2x4. You've got the dowel, which was like $5, scrap plywood, screws. You've got a couple dollars in screws if you're looking at how much it actually costs, not the whole box of screws. A box of screws is like 10 bucks. You're going to need two different types. One that will go through your 2x4, and the other that will just go into it on the side, a smaller screw. The paper is the most expensive part of this project. The roll I bought was $71. I got it shipped to me on Amazon. It says it's a 40-pound weight paper, which is like butcher paper, but that's not what I got, and I knew that wasn't going to be the case because I read the reviews. It's more like 20 weight paper, which is closer to newsprint but slightly heavier, which I was fine with because it's literally just for light reflection. I'm not using it to wrap anything. And I think you could go with a higher grade paper if you wanted. You might consider going with a 4-foot roll. Your mileage may vary. That's going to be the single most expensive thing in this project. Time-wise, you've probably got an hour to run to the store and get the materials you need, depending upon where you live, and maybe an hour to cut and assemble. I brought the materials inside. I pre-drilled holes into the 2x4s and drove screws almost all the way through into the holes. I put them in place and then drove the screws in the rest of the way to attach them to the floor joists. Then my faithful assistant helped me slide the dowel through the holes while I held the paper in place. And this part couldn't have gone any slower. That roll of paper is really heavy. Please be careful if you do this by yourself. I then used trim screws on the scrap pieces of plywood that I had cut to cover the ends to prevent the dowel from sliding out. There also was a slight like squeeze in on the bottom, which also helped keep the dowel in place. So here we have the paper dispenser, photo booth, all installed and up and operating here. And the idea is that you got some figures in the booth here. Take your pictures. See Red Hulk, his paint's coming off here. He's dragging his feet around the booth. He's making marks. Okay, that doesn't look so hot. For the next figure, he's dragged his dirty little feet everywhere, and here close up you can see where his paint is just rubbing off of his toes. I wasn't even doing anything crazy there. So the paint is just super soft in this figure, which is a whole nother issue that I can get into. That happens and you want to shoot another figure and you don't want those marks everywhere. You can hold your tape here. Pull the roll down. Like that. Tape off where you want to stop. You can also use clamps. Here I've got one clamp handy. If you don't want to use tape, so just clamp it down and then cut off the excess that you don't want here. Like that. And you've got a nice, a nice clean work surface for your next figure. And then rinse and repeat. That's pretty much it. So it's really similar, again, to Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy. Same idea, but instead of me dealing with individual sheets of paper or cutting off a roll then moving it over, it's all right there. And now I'll just take some pictures in the photo booth. So all in all, I think that project turned out pretty good. To be completely honest, there is one thing I would change, and I will change this when I run out of the 1,000 feet of paper that I bought, is I definitely feel like I should have used a 4-foot wide roll. I did measurements with what my camera was going to capture before I got started, and I thought 3 feet would be enough. And as soon as I started taking pictures, it's just a little bit, I wish I had a little bit more real estate. But anyway, if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much. Thanks to Carl Casey at Wipeout Audio for the free music. Like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll catch you in the next one. ロボ忍者デザイン